thinking is something that happens to most people. It's not something they do voluntarily as a choice. So I sometimes say you don't think, you are being thought, you're being created by the involuntary and compulsive movement of thought that is conditioned by the past. And this involuntary compulsive movement creates a mind-made kind of entity, a sense of self, and this entity is the ego, and for most people that's who they perceive themselves to be. They are lost in doing. They lose themselves in their doing. Or if they are not doing anything, maybe they're hanging around at street corners, then they are lost in semi-consciousness. They have moving below thinking, or they're trapped in very dysfunctional mind patterns. You, as the deeper consciousness, are asleep and you're dreaming the dream of your life. Occasionally you might wake up briefly and then you fall back into the dream state, which is the whatever drama is happening in your life, whatever situations are happening in your life. So there's a personality or person that's a dreamlike entity. From the point of view of the awakened consciousness, you can clearly see that when you retrospectively, perhaps as you awaken, you look back on your life and you can see how many unconscious things happened that you were involved in, that you participate in, and so on. Sometimes not so bad, and at other times really dreadful, and a kind of nightmare in some cases. So the extent to which you are still identified with you as a person, you may still be trapped in the dream. You've probably heard of lucid dreaming, which means this is actual dreaming when you're asleep and you dream. It can sometimes happen you're in the middle of the dream, you suddenly realize that you're dreaming. It's a very interesting point. Oh, it's all a dream. And then you might think, okay, I could do anything now. What can I create in this dream? In most cases, this doesn't last very long because it's most likely that very quickly you wake up out of the dream, then it's gone. And then you wake up into normal wakefulness, which is another, spiritually speaking, another kind of dream. With your history, with your person, conditioned, created by your history, and we could perhaps assume, could this be a dream? Could you be dreaming this? We don't know. It could be the case. Depends how you look at it. From a certain perspective it is, from another perspective it's not. Let's assume that it is for a moment. But even if it is a dream, there must be something that is more real than the dream, without which the dream could not be taking place, could not be. And this prerequisite is, of course, there must be a consciousness in which the dream happens. There must be an essence within that dream that is real, and that essence is the light of consciousness in which the dream images appear. As you probably know, one of the most challenging things in your life is other people. But yes, people are difficult. That's the ego talking, of course. Life could be so much nicer with all these dreadful people around. And of course, these are judgments. These are judgments of the mind. And the moment you encounter another human being, the moment you meet another human being, if you are trapped in the conditioned mind, you will very quickly have things to say about him or her. And the moment you have thought arising, you're imposing judgment, you can't really experience that human being anymore and be free of thinking. And there's suddenly a connection, and you don't have to tell them, I'm connecting with you on a spiritual level, because they'll go, what? Start with a tree. The tree is an expression of consciousness, but the tree is very still. The tree is just, might have been there for 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. Some trees have been there for 1,000 years. And without needing to impose any thought on it, you don't need to call it anything, you don't need to know the name in order to experience the tree. You don't need to know the name of the tree. There's nothing wrong with knowing the name of the tree. But the name of the tree can, if you're too attached to the name of the tree, can prevent you from experiencing the tree. And that is a very common thing, how the moment you name something, you think that's it. And then you don't realize there is a depth to that which the name obscures. The label, the mental label, will be in the way. The mental label keeps you trapped on the surface of reality. And so, very knowledgeable people, and there's nothing wrong with knowledge, but people are very knowledgeable about nature, sometimes are so trapped in their knowledge, all they know is mental stuff about things. So they know a lot about the tree, but they never know the tree. You have two kinds of knowing. One is conceptual knowing through labels, and one is a deeper knowing through immediate perception, through awareness. And if that dimension is missing from your life, you run around the surface of reality, never connecting with anything or anybody really deeply, never sensing your connectedness with other life forms, nature, animals, humans. So it's important to develop this ability to experience without imposing labels. But all the senses are involved in that experience. And then the trees can then teach you stillness, because the tree is so still. But you have to tune in. You can't tune in with mental labels. You have to be there. And then there's an alertness there. And with that alertness, you not only perceive the tree, you sense the underlying consciousness of the tree, because ultimately it's the same consciousness that is the essence of who you are, but in a different manifestation, a different frequency level, so to speak. You may notice in a way that you cannot explain, as I mention these words, there is a kind of recognition in you, so that you don't attach excessive importance or give excessive attention to the words. They are helpful, but don't be like somebody who collects signposts. There's a knowing, the possibility in you of accessing a knowing that is non-conceptual. And this is completely overlooked in our civilization, almost completely, because our civilization encourages the ability, even already in young children, to conceptualize and to analyze and to think. And the teacher asks a question, and the best students, according to the educational system, are those that immediately go, I know, that's it. And then you begin to mistake names for the deeper reality of things. And the moment the mind attaches a label to a thing, the mind says, oh, now I know. A whole dimension that actually our whole civilization is continuously encouraging you to overlook. Just don't look there. And there are many ways in which we can approach talking about it, but more importantly, of course, we're here to deepen our experience of that dimension. And that dimension of consciousness, which in spiritual traditions, all the ancient teachers have pointed to it, using different kinds of signposts, which of course the collectors of signposts say, no, this signpost is totally different from that one. Look, they're totally different writing on it, and let's analyze it even more. Not realizing they point exactly the same way. It's only the illusion of knowledge because you've attached labels to things. Not that many humans have actually even begun to realize that that dimension exists in them, except you. And that's why you're here.